on this episode of Explorer. I'm in the Atacama Desert, which stretches about 600 miles along the coast of Chile. What really makes the Atacama Desert so unique is that they have clear, dark skies untouched by light pollution. One of the reasons they built the world's most advanced optical telescope here. I'm gonna stare trillions of miles off into space. This would have been one of the biggest discoveries in recent years?
If not the biggest.
Also, correspondent Albert Lin looks into a bold new plan to get an astronaut safely to Mars.
How do we put a human into a state of hibernation?
This unlikely creature may hold the key.
It's built into the genome, and we possess those genes too.
Plus, Mariana Vanzella looks into a growing movement in America. People who believe the Earth is flat.
We have photos from space that prove that the Earth is round.
And nobody here believes any of that anymore.
And Cara Santa Maria unveils the shadowy and lucrative world of meteorite trading.
The rarest Mars rock on Earth sells for 10,000 US per gram.
It's science versus profit in the race to find rocks from outer space.
This really has the potential to be the most expensive meteorite we've ever sold.
Wow.
Welcome to Explore. I'm Phil Keoghan. Our species have always been stargazers, looking up in awe and wondering what's out there. In this episode, we follow that ancient curiosity to its modern frontier. Our first story is about scientists who believe they've found the key to enabling humans to becoming interplanetary travelers. Here's Albert Lin in Houston.
If you watch any science fiction, you know that deep space travel is going to involve some kind of glass and steel hibernation chamber. But how do we put a human into a state of hibernation? Well, that brings us here to this forest and the fat-tailed dwarf lemur, an unlikely linchpin in our quest to become an interplanetary species.
The colonization of Mars. It seems inevitable. But the first challenge we need to overcome is simply getting humans to survive the 9-month trip there. To find out how big that hurdle really is, I'm talking to the man who spent the most time in space, astronaut Scott Kelly.
Does this even come close to what it feels like to get shot up into space?
No, it's not close at all.
It certainly feels like it to me.
I mean, you really are the example of how we might survive a journey towards Mars. How many days have you spent in space?
So I spent 520 days in space on 4 space flights.
Kelly spent nearly a year on the International Space Station and underwent unprecedented medical tests to determine the impact of prolonged space travel on the human body. And the bottom line is, it's not good.
As you spend more and more time in space, you know, physiologically, bad things happen. Our physiology recognizes that, hey, I don't need these bones to support everything else anymore. We get rid of that bone mass through urination.
So you pee out your bones?
Basically, yeah, you pee out a lot of calcium, 1% a month. So, you know, after 100 months, you would have no bones if you didn't do anything about it. Also, radiation is a big concern.
What would be the equivalent in terms of, like, for example, a chest X-ray, you know, to 1 day in space?
At the space station, 10 to 20 chest X-rays every day.
Every single day for a year?
It damages your cells.
But Kelly says we fail to overcome these obstacles at our peril.
In the long scheme of things, we will go beyond, right?
Or we'll cease to exist.
The expiration date for humans on Earth is somewhere on the horizon. And many say the steady rising population will drain the already dwindling supply of resources here. And if we hope to live beyond our planet's ability to support the human race, we'll have to figure out how to migrate to distant planets.
It's a huge paradox. Can we become an interplanetary species without destroying the bodies of the men and the women that we send into space?
In Atlanta, there's already a team of scientists working to figure that out. At SpaceWorks, Dr. John Bradford has been tasked by NASA to break through the engineering and health challenges of sending astronauts on long-term voyages.
We're going to want to send hundreds of people, and those technologies and the solutions that the aerospace community has been traditionally looking at, we're not going to support that. So I started thinking about, what are the real challenges, and started to wonder, why can't we, put humans in a hibernation-like state during the mission?
When animals shift into hibernation, their body undergoes several changes that help protect them for months at a time. Slower metabolism, cooler body temperature, reduced brain activity. And there's evidence that it's possible to induce a similar state in humans.
Very often we'll see in the news these kind of miraculous stories of people recovering from deep hypothermic states.
Rescuers work frantically to find 2.5-year-old Michelle Funk.
The little girl was submerged for more than an hour and technically dead, but the cold water chilled her down to 66 degrees, enough to stave off brain damage.
There's additional medical benefits that we see when people are in this low metabolic state. We think that muscle atrophy and bone loss will be slowed. We can do things like neuromuscular electrical stimulation to kind of exercise their muscle groups and things. So, and we can keep them in a fit shape during the course of the mission. We can also put them in a much smaller habitat.
But so far, simply cooling the body is only a short-term solution. For long space voyages, some experts think humans will need to enter a hibernation state, maybe even deep torpor. An unprecedented approach being seriously considered in scientific circles.
There's a community out there that believes that maybe early humans did hibernate, and that's how they survived some periods of kind of famines or cold winters. So there's a group that thinks we could reactivate that capability.
Which brings me here, to North Carolina, where researchers are studying that capability in one of our closest genetic relatives.
Here we go.
The fat-tailed dwarf lemur. It's the only primate in the world known to hibernate for an extended period of time. And while we may look different, humans actually possess the same genetic switches that allow these primates to hibernate. We just need to figure out how to turn ours on.
What we're doing here at the Duke Lemur Center is trying to figure out what the stimuli that induce hibernation are.
So it's sort of like pressing the rest or sleep button on your computer to go into low power mode.
That's a very good analogy. My guess is that it's built into the genome, and we humans possess those genes too. But given the modern advances in genetic surgery, if we could identify the controlling genes, it is conceivable that we could induce torpor in humans.
This genetic hint from one of our most ancient cousins could be the key that allows scientists to unlock the secrets of human hibernation already within us. In New York, the work to decode our genome and find these secrets is now underway.
Welcome. This is the lab. So we'll take you on upstairs and tell you about everything for the study. This is where we keep all the samples that have come back from either here before they went up to space.
This is where you guys tweak humanity.
That's right.
Dr. Chris Mason has spent the last 3 years doing work for NASA, studying the effects of space travel on astronauts like Scott Kelly.
But in here is essentially, the cells that are still viably frozen, meaning we can thaw them, and his cells that were taken from space will still be alive.
Dr. Mason invites me into the cave at Cornell, a virtual reality room that allows scientists to explore images at the molecular and cellular levels.
But what's remarkable here is that when you look at all these different animals, comparatively, from the mice to the orangutan to the chimpanzee to the gibbon to the human, We almost look exactly the same.
That's right. Almost all the pieces are already inside of us. We just have to put it back and turn it back on.
So this is basically the frontier of our human story.
This is a roadmap of what you would need to have torpor exist in other species.
Do you think that in my lifetime, I'll be able to induce something like torpor?
You might not get a full torpor, or maybe a half torpor, probably within your lifetime.
Earth is our home, and we have a chance to figure out how to live more sustainably on it. But as any society develops and thrives, it has to grow, and eventually, we will grow beyond this planet, sending people to Mars and beyond.
Next on Explorer, could a fringe movement of conspiracy theorists pose a hidden threat to our space agency's future?
You think for the longest time you live here. But what if it wasn't this?
And later, are we alone? I head to one of the most advanced deep space observatories in the world to find out.
Every night is a new opportunity to discover something new.
Welcome back to Explorer. 2,500 years ago, the ancient Greeks concluded that the Earth is a sphere, a theory that has been validated by scientists ever since. You'd think that with the beautiful photographs that we have of our round blue planet, it would convince any doubters. But there are still some who insist that the world is flat. Correspondent Mariana Van Zella discovers more about this fast-growing movement in California.
That's the famous blue marble that everybody's seen. But let me tell you something about that famous shot. It's not a photo at all, man. It was made in Photoshop. Cause there ain't no photographs, but somebody tell me why. They're all just photographs.
I'm Mariana Van Zeller, and I'm in Southern California to look into a growing movement in America. People who claim the Earth is flat. They call themselves the Flat Earthers, and we're here to try to understand what's behind this unconventional view and how it can affect the rest of us. So what's happening here today? Why are you here?
This matters to me. Flat Earth shows you that you are not a mistake, and you were created, and so you have meaning, and you matter to the world, you know? We're not monkeys floating through space on a ball as an accident.
It's not testable, it's not measurable, it's not provable, it's not real.
Right. How old are you guys, just out of curiosity?
27.
Do you think it's a growing movement?
Yes. And we're networking, we're getting stronger, people are realizing it, it's coming out in the media, you're hearing the term flat earth is becoming more normal, people are more open-minded to it.
He's not wrong. A recent survey of Americans found that 2% believe the Earth is flat. For the U.S. population as a whole, that works out to be over 6.5 million people. Even high-profile artists and athletes are getting on board.
Flat.
So I want to try to find Mark Sargent, who's one of the leaders of the Flat Earth community.
Nice to see you, man. No, we met at Pasadena.
Mark used to design video games and run software trainings. Now, he devotes himself full-time to promoting the Flat Earth.
Absolutely.
Hi.
Hi.
I see with all the attention that you must be Mark Sargent.
I am Mark Sargent.
Thanks for meeting us here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell me, what is this movement all about?
This movement is about changing the world, literally. You think for the longest time that you live here. But what if it wasn't this? What if this was just the illusion? Yeah, we're gonna open this thing up. And the reality looked something like this. In a nutshell, you have the North Pole at the center, the continents splayed out organically on the sides. Antarctica is stretched around the entire outer edge like an ice wall. The sun and the moon are very, very small, and the stars are just lights in the sky. A giant planetarium, which means it was built by somebody. Someone bigger than us, someone better than us.
Do you think it was a god?
Not my place to say.
Your belief in the Earth being flat flies in the face of
Hundreds of years.
Years of evidence, of scientific evidence that the world is round. Not only that, but we have satellite imagery. We have photos from space that prove that the Earth is round.
Right. And nobody here believes any of that anymore.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.
So you don't believe that people traveled in space?
No. Oh, it's much worse than you know.
Okay.
Meaning, the only reason NASA was founded in 1958 was to keep this thing under wraps as best they could.
Why? Why?
Think of the shock waves. If all of a sudden you're telling a civilization that this model, this isn't it anymore, flat Earth is the last conspiracy anyone ever looks at.
Mark and his fellow flat earthers seem to be pretty convinced that the Earth is flat and that we've all been lied to for all these years. But I'm interested in knowing what kind of impact this might have, not only for science, but for society at large. So we're heading to meet with an astrophysicist that we hope can answer some of these questions.
The universe began about 14 billion years ago in an event that we call the Big Bang.
James Bullock is a professor of physics and astronomy at the University of California, Irvine. He specializes in how galaxies form.
Did you ever think a few years ago that you'd be having this discussion for National Geographic?
It's frankly shocking. We've known for 2,000 years, based on observations you can make with your own eyes, that the world is round.
But they have all the evidence right in front of them and they still choose not to believe in it.
You know, who knows what motivates people from the inside to believe these things? But science is important. Science is valuable. Science saves lives, it makes our lives better and more comfortable, and it enriches us intellectually. And to question what scientists are saying and suggest that they're part of some massive international global conspiracy, it's really scary.
Are they a threat to the work that you do as a scientist?
If, say, governments stop funding science because of some kind of anti-science, anti-intellectual feedback they're getting from the populace, that's when it really starts getting dangerous for our civilization.
And as the war on science heats up, some Americans are fighting back.
We're heading to the largest lake in California to meet the Independent Investigations Group, which is a group that essentially debunks paranormal claims. And they want to do a round Earth test, basically a test that will prove that the Earth is not flat, but that it is round.
Let's go. We're ready to launch. You ready, Craig?
James, how are you?
Okay.
Okay, so what's happening here right now?
Okay, this is the boat-based target. It's horizontal stripes. We're going to launch a small boat out into the water here with a striped target. Come on, Betty! And as it gets farther and farther out, you'll start to lose the stripes.
One way that Aristotle proved 2,000 years ago that the Earth is a sphere was with a boat test very similar to this one. As a boat approaches the horizon, it appears to slowly dip down into the water before disappearing completely. That's got everything to do with the curvature of the Earth. If the planet was flat, the entire boat would remain visible.
So it'll be a very visual depiction of the curvature of the Earth.
And what's really interesting is that some of the flat earthers, including Mark Sargent, are actually going to be here for this test. They want to see it for themselves. What do you think is going to happen here today?
I appreciate a scientific group coming out and trying to do this test. Great. Appreciate the enthusiasm, but cannot work.
Cannot work?
I'm ready. Bring it up.
So it's starting?
Yeah.
Okay, so the test is starting. It's starting right now.
At first, all the stripes are clearly visible. But sure enough, as the boat reaches the horizon, the stripes begin to disappear one by one.
It's pretty amazing. You can actually see it pretty clearly with this camera here. And you see that the red stripe that was at the bottom has completely disappeared, and it's now getting closer to sort of the middle green stripe, that is.
So we've lost about 1.5 stripes.
Right. So this can only happen, why?
Because of the curvature of the Earth. So here's what we were shooting.
But Mark Sargent and the other flat earthers have a very different interpretation of the results.
So you don't think that what we're seeing is actually real? You think it's because of heat?
Oh, absolutely heat.
Does anyone here in flat Earth believe it's a globe?
It's still flat.
No, anyone? Raise a hand.
It's not a pear either.
This demonstration, it doesn't change anything for you.
Lord, no.
Mark, do you really believe this stuff? Tell me the truth. I'm serious.
I absolutely 100% believe we are not on a globe. We are part of a giant studio set. All the world's a stage, and you're on it.
I still don't understand, though. Like, who's gaining from all this, from this large conspiracy?
The highest authority, higher than presidents, the super rich, people that are behind the scenes. Remember, the first rule of power is stay hidden.
So this is, for me, where I think it gets really dangerous, because we're going back into the dark ages, right? You're essentially perpetuating ignorance by denying science. You know, there's a real life implication in all of this.
Science has had its chance, and they aren't putting up a defense. I think that Flat Earth could potentially usher in a new golden age, or it could usher in an age of chaos.
It's easy to dismiss this as just a silly theory and unimportant. But the problem is that it's a growing movement in America. More and more young people seem to believe that the world is flat. And, you know, it's more than just distrusting government. It's this notion that thousands of years of empirical scientific evidence is now being dismissed as a mere conspiracy. And that's where I think it really starts getting dangerous for all of us.
When we come back, does life exist on distant planets? I traveled to one of the most otherworldly places to find out. So this would have been one of the biggest discoveries in recent years?
For sure, if not the biggest.
And later, when a meteorite strikes the Earth, is it scientists or deep-pocketed collectors that get first dibs?
I have heard stories of meteorites changing hands for $1 million.
Most of us live under light-polluted skies. The best stargazing spots on Earth are often extremely remote. Places like the Atacama Desert in Chile, where scientists have an unparalleled view of deep space and are making discoveries that are changing our understandings of the universe. Our next story is my journey to see stars up close as you can get. Rising more than 8,000 feet above sea level, the Atacama is the highest, driest desert on Earth. There are places here where it's so dry that they've never had a drop of rain. The soil has no water or nutrients. But what really makes the Atacama Desert so unique is that they have clear, dark skies, untouched by light pollution. One of the reasons they built the world's most advanced optical telescope here. If you're a stargazer, worth the trip. The National Observatory, it's as good as it gets. This telescope, tell me, why is it so special?
The size of the main mirror is very important because...
How big are we talking?
8.2 meters in diameter.
So maybe 24, 25 feet.
The larger the telescope, the more light you collect from the...
it's moving.
Yeah, it's moving.
Oh. Matthias, can we walk up so we can see the mirror?
Of course.
Can we go up the stairs?
Yeah.
So here you really get to see this.
Exactly, the primary mirror. Yeah.
The VLT's largest mirror collects the light from distant stars and planets. From there, a series of smaller mirrors reflect that light onto one of several instruments that allow astronomers to study the subject. How thick is this big one?
17 centimeters.
So we're looking at about 7 inches or something like that,
something
right?
like that. It weighs more than 20 tons, so it's a big piece of glass, let's say, right?
But having one of the largest mirrors in the world is useless unless you can focus it. That's why you need lasers. Just like something out of Star Wars, a powerful laser beam shoots out from the telescope, causing sodium atoms high in the atmosphere to glow, creating an artificial star that allows the scientists to calibrate the VLT.
I mean, this is state-of-the-art instrumentation in astronomy, so this is the right place if you want to do
the work that you do.
Exactly. There will be also very nice new instrument.
I love that. Look, the lights are going down,
exactly.
Matthias, huh?
Look, this is part of the excitement of working here, right? Every night is a new opportunity to discover something new.
The $500 million facility is the most productive ground-based observatory in the world, advancing our knowledge of black holes and how stars and planets are born. In 2008, the Very Large Telescope detected the afterglow of a gamma-ray burst among the farthest objects ever observed, near the very edge of the known universe. Light from this explosion took almost 13 billion years to get here, giving us a window into the universe in its infancy.
We can go to the control room, where we operate remotely.
But perhaps the most significant work done here is the discovery and studying of exoplanets. Planets outside our solar system.
Okay, so here we are at the control room.
And each one of these are control centers for
the instrument on that specific telescope.
Observation time on these powerful telescopes is precious, and requests come from all over the world. Only astronomers with the best proposals get to use them. Eliar is an astronomer from Iran, and I guess this is a great way to be able to sort of get a sense of what an exoplanet looks like.
Yes, for sure.
These images are really quite extraordinary. We've known about exoplanets since 1992, but didn't catch an image of one until 2004, when the team here at Paranal made history.
Here, we actually have a direct image of an exoplanet. This is the star, and this is a giant planet. It's a little bit bigger than Jupiter, around that star that we could take its picture directly.
It's the first ever image of a planet outside our solar system. This exoplanet orbits a star located 230 light years from Earth, which sounds far, unless you're talking to an astronomer.
It's in our neighborhood in terms of the size of the galaxy, because our galaxy is about 100,000 light years.
Since the imaging technology at Paranal is relatively new and not widely available, these so-called neighborhoods are still largely unexplored. But recently, the astronomers here happened upon a potentially earth-shattering discovery.
So this is this planetary system discovered around a star called TRAPPIST-1, and they found 7 rocky planets around this star.
And what do we know about these planets?
What we know is that 3 of them are for sure in the habitable zone of the star, which means that there is a possibility that there is liquid water on their surface.
So are you now zeroing in on these planets and starting to really understand them more and more?
For sure. I mean, we are really lucky that from our point of view, all 7 of these planets pass in front of the host star. So as it passes in front of the host star, we can actually study their atmosphere.
I learned that an exoplanet passing in front of its star is a very important time for these astronomers. For one, it slightly dims the light from the star, making it the best time to detect the planet in the first place. Also, as light from the star passes through the planet's atmosphere, astronomers can identify which gases are present. And by then studying the composition of all the gases, you start to understand more about what the potential is for life, that sort of thing?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and your personal feeling is what? Maybe there is some life there in TRAPPIST?
If I had to bet, I would say probably not. The reason that I say probably not is because this star emits a lot of X-ray radiation. As we know, the X-ray is not quite good for life. But you never know. We only know one example of life that has evolved in the universe, so we are very inexperienced.
You have dreams, Matthias? You have something that you're searching for, you feel like you want to find?
If we find sign of life outside the solar system, would be, I mean, I think that is one of the biggest questions of mankind, right? Are we alone in the universe? And probably the answer to this will be provided by astronomy in the coming decades. So it's challenging, but it's also super exciting.
The high-powered telescopes here give astronomers a groundbreaking view of deep space. But the remote desert landscape on which they stand provides a truly incredible look at the stars, with or without a telescope.
For me, I've just never seen the sky like this in my entire life.
You can see this brilliant band of light across the sky that, as you can see, just goes all the way across.
Beautiful. And that band is called?
That's the Milky Way.
That's the Milky Way.
That's our home galaxy. So if we can, I would like to actually come a bit closer to home and actually have a look at Jupiter, if you would like.
Jupiter.
So that's the brightest star that you can see in the sky.
Oh, there.
Yeah, the one right there.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see it right there.
Oh, wow.
You have it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And you also see 4 dots very close to Jupiter, and those are Jupiter's moons.
I really appreciate the tour.
It's my pleasure.
This state-of-the-art observatory and the men and women who work here are on the vanguard of an amazing explosion of knowledge. And even with all that's been explored, we've only scratched the surface of the historic discoveries that await us on distant horizons. When we come back.
Here in Morocco, when a meteorite strikes the Earth, there's a rush to find the best pieces.
Just those 2 pieces, they want $20,000.
$20,000 for what's in my hand right
now. Welcome back. While space might appear like an empty vacuum, it is in fact filled with cosmic debris, like asteroids, comets, and meteors. Tens of thousands of these meteors become fiery meteorites, breaking through our atmosphere before crashing down on Earth. These extraterrestrial rocks can offer rich insight into alien worlds and are often so valuable, they're worth more than gold. Up next, Cara Santa Maria goes behind the scenes of the global meteorite market in North Africa.
I'm Cara Santa Maria, and here in Morocco, when a meteorite strikes the Earth, there's a rush to find the best pieces. From scientists to private collectors, everyone's interested in the secrets of the cosmos that these rocks could unlock. Many meteorites are unchanged since the birth of our solar system and can tell scientists a lot about our place in the universe. More than 40 tons of interplanetary rocks and dust fall through our atmosphere every day. Most are lost to oceans or dense terrain. But of the precious few meteorites that have been found, nearly 1 in 5 landed here.
Best place to find meteorite is in the desert. Because sand, it's a color help us to see black stone from far away. Oh, maybe it's meteorite. My big one, it was 22 kilo. And we sell it like 12,000.
In the oasis town of Erfoud, Morocco, a large percentage of the economy is made up in meteorites. Known as the Gate of the Sahara, people come from all over the world to trade in this precious commodity. Michael Farmer is a meteorite dealer, one of only 20 people in the world with access to the nearly impenetrable meteorite market.
These guys you trade with?
Yes. Yeah. I've known them a lot of years. Hi, Mike.
Aww. This is your full-time job?
I worked at Target while I was in the University of Arizona, and I quit that job, traveled to Morocco, started buying meteorites, and have never looked back.
Do you travel the world in search of these things?
Yeah, I've been to over 80 countries. I never stop. Anytime a new meteorite falls, I tend to jump on a plane and rush there.
Michael has a network of meteorite brokers all around the world. Here in Morocco, his local agent is Mohammed. In anticipation of Michael's arrival, he set up secret meetings with a small group of top sellers.
Thank you.
The one we're about to meet claims that he has 2 rare rocks out of only 200 of its kind that were ever found.
Black Beauty. What is Black Beauty?
The rarest Mars rock on Earth. Scientifically, it's extraordinary. It has a lot of water in it, Martian water. Usually sells for 10,000 US per gram. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, very, very, very rare rock. Gold is $50 a gram. Just those 2 pieces, they want $20,000.
$20,000 for what's in my hand right now.
The existence of this global underground meteorite industry is actually a huge problem, according to another group of people desperate to get their hands on these rare rocks. Paul Chodas is the head of near-Earth objects for NASA and believes meteorites are too important to be collected by anyone other than scientists.
Well, a meteorite is a stone that is sitting on the ground, a stone from space, a rock from space. It's exciting because it formed in space 4 billion years ago, so we can learn more about the formation of the solar system and the composition of that early material that were the building blocks of the planets. So to ascertain kind of the age and when the fall happened and where there are other related meteorites, documentation is certainly needed when meteorites are recovered. And I can't speak to what the meteorite hunters are doing.
Scientists like Paul have good reason to be suspicious. In an underground marketplace, even well-known meteorite hunters sometimes struggle to get the information they need.
Should we take off our shoes here? Okay. Can we sit here? Here? Oh, here.
Anywhere you want. Grab a pillow.
Oh,
relax.
thank you.
Wow. What's this?
It's chondrite.
Yeah, that's a nice piece. Wow. Look at that. A very nice oriented rock.
Chondrites are pieces of asteroid and are thought to be one of the earliest building blocks of our solar system. Nearly 90% of meteorites found so far are chondrites, and researchers consider the specific details of each rock's fall to the Earth vital to the scientific record. But this dealer is being cryptic about where he found this one.
ما كانش عندك البلاصة فين ما عرفت البلاصة فين طاحت. ها؟
I saw pieces of this a few months ago. It looks like a fall from Algeria.
It's illegal to export meteorites from Algeria. They're seen as priceless artifacts and property of the state.
So you're concerned about these coming from a place where it's not legal to sell them?
Yeah, if I had information on that exactly, I would buy it. But no information, no buy.
Morocco is the global hub of a booming meteorite market. But these keys to the origins of the cosmos are also vital to science, and it seems some dealers are willing to compromise critical scientific data just to make a profit.
ما كانش عندك البلاصة فين ما عرفت البلاصة فين طاحت.
If I had information on that exactly, I would buy it, but...
خاص الموضوع ديالها فين كاينة. It's not far from Tamarrast, Algeria.
But that's a problem.
So you're concerned about these coming from a place where it's not legal to sell them?
Yeah, at the moment, with the information I have, I won't buy it. I would love to buy it, but I don't like what I'm hearing, so I'm out.
Michael may have turned this rock down, but some collectors look the other way, destroying critical data scientists need to create a complete picture of a meteorite fall.
There often is a strewn field. That is to say, there are a bunch of meteorites that are related together, you know, and that Mapping out that field is also of great interest. If the local citizens have picked up a meteorite and moved it, hundreds of miles maybe, then we have no information where that fell. So in general, my preference is that professionals are involved in recovering the meteorites.
Michael Farmer argues that despite some bad actors, the vast majority of meteorite hunters are careful and coordinate with scientists.
Anytime I get a new meteorite, we have to share 20 grams or 20%, and that's been a joint agreement with collectors, dealers, and scientists to make sure that science gets its share, or at least enough to study.
But it's not just out of the goodness of their hearts. In a twist of irony, scientific certification is actually the best way for meteorite traders to get top dollar for their finds.
I have heard stories of meteorites changing hands for $1 million or in excess of it.
James Hislop sources the most extraordinary meteorites on the planet.
I'm really looking for the best of the best. I'd say for every 100 meteorites that I'm offered, I probably turn down 98, 99 of them.
He's currently receiving deliveries from brokers around the world for one of Christie's meteorite auctions.
Wow.
Canyon Diablo, named after a meteor crater in Arizona. Most, as you know, most Canyon Diablos do not look like this.
No.
And when you're dropping the same amount of cash on a piece of rock as you would a home, like a home, you want qualified experts to make sure you're buying what you think you are.
Until it's been formally classified by the Meteoritical Society, it's just a rock. So it then has to be cut open, analyzed, published. Then it's officially a meteorite, and then we'll offer it for sale at Christie's. This really has the potential to be the most expensive meteorite we've ever sold at Christie's.
It should be. It's a one-of-a-kind. I mean, they're all one-of-a-kind objects, but this is extraordinary. This is really extraordinary.
At the auction Christie's held in February 2018, this scientifically certified Canyon Diablo meteorite sold for a staggering $237,500. So in many ways, scientists help fuel the high prices in the meteorite market, but they also get a lot in return. Recovering these incredible pieces of outer space from far-flung regions is a costly and time-consuming endeavor. And scientists almost never have to foot the bill because the meteorite hunters are chasing a much bigger payday than any government budget would provide.
Okay, now that's a nice piece. Nice moon rock, big moon rock. I mean, I jump on a plane, I go to India, I get the meteorite, and I deliver it to scientific hands in 72 hours. Whereas they may have to write up a budget proposal and wait a year on somebody to give them some money to go and try to acquire a sample. We cut that red tape. That's $15,000, $14,900.
Yeah, that's a real good.
After cutting, polishing, and obtaining scientific certification, Michael could clear at least $45,000 in profit from this 1.5-pound piece of the moon.
He's happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy.
In this episode, we've seen how enduring human curiosity is when it comes to understanding how the universe works. Many people believe our long-term survival as a species will depend on it. That's it for this episode. Join me next time on Explorer.